What if the mistake you replay is only part of the truth? What if that one moment has been dressed up into a life sentence, and you could gently rewrite it as an origin, not a verdict?
Welcome to The Healing Pen, a podcast about the power of creative writing to help you process stress, reconnect with yourself, and write your way through burnout. I'm Corey Jonke, Amazon best-selling author, leadership coach, pharmacist, and someone who believes that sometimes the words we put on the page can help us heal the parts of ourselves we've been too busy to hear.
If you've been carrying too much for too long, if you felt emotionally exhausted, disconnected, overwhelmed, or unsure how to make sense of what you're feeling, you are in the right place. This podcast is a space for reflection, honesty, healing, and hope.
A few years ago, I made a career decision that on paper looked like a mistake. I took on a role because I thought it was the obvious next step. It turned out to be a misfit. Hours that eroded my sleep, responsibilities that erased my boundaries, and a sense that I had failed everyone. My team, my family, myself. I replayed that choice so many times, I could recite the moment it began.
For months, I told myself a tight, humiliating story. I am the person who chooses poorly, who can't manage pressure, who loses credibility. That narrative followed me into meetings, into relationships, and, quietly, into burnout. The funny, painful truth was that the story made the recovery take longer. I was busy proving the story true instead of exploring what actually happened. You might hear yourself in that. The emotional struggle here is the shame loop. A single memory becomes a fixed identity claim. I am a failure. I am unreliable. I am imposter. And we carry it like evidence against ourselves. It's exhausting. It changes how we show up and narrows the future to things that fit that old story.
First, context. Name the conditions around the moment. What else was happening? Who else was involved? What pressures, information gaps, or constraints shaped the choice? Context slows the rush to judgment and reminds you the choices happen inside circumstances. Second, consequence. Acknowledge what went wrong, the harm, the loss, the real outcomes. This is not minimizing. It's important to hold the facts and the feelings. That's how we respect reality and the people affected.
Third, curious learning. Ask, what did I learn? What did I resource in that moment, however small? Grit, a quick decision that prevented worse, a boundary I tried to hold. What would I do differently now that I have more information? This part moves the memory from a verdict to a classroom.
Here's a very brief example. Instead of, I chose wrong and I can't be trusted with big roles, try a short origin paragraph that holds nuance. In that season, I took a role because I thought stability meant saying yes. The workload outpaced the resources we had, and I missed signs that the role needed a different structure. That taught me how important clear scope and early boundary setting are, and that when systems break, it's not only one person's failure. Notice how that paragraph respects the pain, but also names systems, conditions, and a learning edge. It doesn't erase fault where it exists, and it gives you a place to stand that's responsible instead of shaming.
Now let's do a short guided practice. Find a pen and paper or open a fresh doc. We'll timebox this. Pick either 5 minutes or 10 minutes, depending on how you're feeling. If 5 minutes feels safer, choose 5. Safety first. Breathe, and if anything gets too intense, close the page and wiggle your fingers for a minute. Reach out to someone you trust if you need support. Step 1. Name the moment. Write one sentence that identifies the memory you want to reframe. Keep it simple. Where, when, and the choice you made.
Step 2. Context. In 1 or 2 sentences, list conditions around that moment. What else was happening? What pressures or blind spots were present? Don't editorialize. Just note facts and circumstances. Step 3. Consequence. One sentence that names what went wrong or who was hurt. Hold it without apology. This honors reality. Step 4. Curious learning. In 2 sentences, point to what you learned, what resources you reached for, and what you might do differently now. Try starting with, "What I learned was," or "I realized I needed." Finally, stitch one short origin paragraph from those pieces. One small, compassionate paragraph that holds the truth and highlights learning over shame. Aim for 8 to 12 sentences? No, aim for one clean paragraph. Keep it short. Time yourself now for 5 or 10 minutes and write.
If emotion rises, pause, breathe. Put the paper aside for a moment and return when you feel steadier. This practice is not about getting it right in one pass. It's about starting a different conversation with yourself.
When you finish, maybe underline one sentence that feels truer or kinder than the old story. That sentence is a seed you can carry into conversations, into new decisions, and into the next draft of your life. You don't need perfect words. You just need honest ones. And you can revise this origin paragraph again and again as you learn and heal. Remember, reframing honors facts. It doesn't erase harm, but it gives your life back the possibility of growth. If you want a better life, you have to write yourself a better story. Trust the small work. Make the practice brief, make it safe, and make it repeatable. Thanks for spending this time with me on the Healing Pen. If today's episode gave you something to think about, something to feel, or something to write about, please subscribe, share the show with someone who needs it, and leave a review. For a downloadable worksheet to guide this exact exercise and more prompts, visit thehealingpen.com.
Until next time, take a breath, pick up the pen, and trust that even a few honest words can begin to change the story. I'll see you next time on The Healing Pen.